Good afternoon. My name is Sergeant William Waldman. I will be conducting this brief today. It is about lifelong learning and its applications to the military, the soldier, and the leader. All of this information is unclassified. Everything I have was found on the internet through different publications, which will be referenced in my forms. The agenda for today, as I just did the introduction, going to explain how things are going to be moving. I will be talking about the always changing Army, a smarter and more advanced Army, a more successful civilian life, because there is life after the military, a conclusion, and then at the end, if there are any questions, feel free to ask. Introduction. The purpose of this brief is to explain why lifelong learning creates better leadership, soldiers, and most importantly, a brighter future. And with anything, I always like to go to people wiser than me, and I'm going to go to Chaos himself, General Mattis, and he said, if you haven't read hundreds of books, you are functionally illiterate and you will be incompetent because your personal experiences alone are broad enough to sustain you. This man, who is a warrior monk, started in the Marines at a young age, grew through the ranks, became one of the most famous modern day generals, went on to be the Department of Defense, and still reads new books and has a plan to read books every day and when to finish them, just so he, who is essentially at the end of his career, can continue to be better, continue to learn, continue to grow. The second quote I want you to keep in your mind is from the ancient Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu, where he says, a bowl is most useful when it's empty. You still have stuff to put into it. I want you to keep that concept of an empty bowl throughout this entire brief. The Army is always changing. I don't think anyone who would disagree with that. You always hear the ones who are about ready to retire, back in my Army when we could still hit each other. Well, I've been in for 3 years and I already see changes in that short amount of time. So, a couple of things. Soldiers have a duty to become masters of their crafts. Walking out of AIT, you were told you are a subject matter expert. That is one of the biggest lies that was told to me at training. Because you're not. You have to learn more. You have to keep engaging. You have to have that hunger to find more. And soldiers have a responsibility to learn, create, set, and follow a standard. I've walked into some shops where FMS 1 is a prime example. I was well below their standard. So I had to learn, move up to, and now that I've been there long enough through training underneath my chief, underneath senior NCO, senior leadership, and courses, I was able to find that standard, and I've even changed some of the standards so it went up just so it looked better, it functioned better. Leaders have a responsibility to train, develop, learn with their soldiers. Courses are great, books are great, but knowledge is better. And I know if I go in and you ask a warrant officer, how do you do this? They can talk your ear off, but you know what? That's what we need to develop. We need to develop by growing in the ways that I just said, so we can become that. So 10 years down the line, when someone comes up to me and says, hey Waldner, how do you do this? I can explain how to do it, the best way to do it, and how it will help them by knowing how to do it. And this is summed up with a quote out of the NCO Creed. I will strive to remain technically and tactfully proficient. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Don't drink from a stagnant pond. I will strive to remain. You have to keep raising your bar. Because if you keep it down here, It's nothing. The Army will pass you and you won't matter. The guy who keeps learning is going to be the next one who looks better. A smarter, more advanced Army. There's no argument. 10 years ago, G-Army wasn't a thing. Well, G-Army wasn't a thing in the National Guard that I know of, and I don't think it really was Big Army either. We had a program that you did put on your computer, plugged in a disk, then shot it out. Now, G-Army is, I can get on my computer right now and look up a troop over in Korea. We're constantly changing. Like I said, we have to create, push, and set new standards just so we're ahead of the Army. The GI Bill. 6% of enlisted soldiers have completed a degree, a bachelor's degree. That was taken in 2014. No, 2018. In 2025, they're hoping that number is up to matching or surpassing the national average of 34%. ATARS, Army Training Requirements and Resource System. There is $3.4 billion put into a program every year for training and readiness. Two things that lifelong learning rotates around. There is no excuse between the GI Bill for your civilian, ATARS for your military, which then can get turned around and flipped into your civilian. There is no excuse for not continuing to learn. More successful civilian life. Did you know only 17% of the time in the military people reach their retirement? That's less than 2 out of every 10. Less than 1 out of every 5 soldiers will reach that 20-year mark. Let that sink in. Less than 1 out of every 5. So why aren't we capitalizing on it? By constantly learning, going to courses, improving your civilian education, getting a bachelor's degree. If something happens, you're no longer in the military, what do you have? I mean, here's a great example. Pay differences between people with a degree and without a degree is $18,722 a year. That's a car. That amount of money is almost what we use to get people to join with a sign-on bonus for having a degree. That's given to us through trainings and the GI Bill. We can better ourselves just by continuing to learn. In conclusion, the purpose of this briefing is to explain why lifelong learning creates a better leadership, soldiers, and brighter future. And I just want to bring back up the opposite. The bowl is most useful when it is empty. What they're talking about is, you're the bowl. It's empty. What are you going to fill it with? I am filling it with courses. In a month before now, and a couple weeks after this, I've gone to 3 separate courses. So 2 are supply based and 1 is EO based. That'll make me a better leader. I'll know how to handle touchy situations. As a better soldier, I can do my job better so my commander doesn't have to stand over my shoulder. And a brighter future, turning that into more for my degree. Not to mention, I'm getting my degree. There's no excuse for anyone to say, well, I don't have a reason to learn. General Mattis still has a reason to learn. You have a reason to learn. At this point, I'd like to leave it open for any questions, comments concerning short stories or testimonies. Thank you. Have a good day.